Good morning, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a good rest. Right now, we are about 30 away from quorum. We're 30 away from quorum. I would like to encourage you to sit down and insert your cards, please. We're about 20 away from quorum. Delegates, we're 9 parties away from quorum. We do need to start early today because there's some overlapping agenda items with COM1.
Thank you, parties. Good morning. I would just like to remind you that we are a day behind, so I will really want to be faster today. I know that you've been keeping your interventions really short, and I really thank you for it. So the plan for today is we will reopen Saiga Antelope 85.1 from yesterday evening, because I understand that some delegates needs to go over to Committee 1 because Saiga will be taken up at Committee 1 as well. So I will open the item. And then we will go through the remainder of the program. And also I will need to reopen Jaguars, document 81, because we did not accept the deletions of certain draft decisions. So it'll just be a quick one. It's just to get everyone's agreement to delete draft decisions for Jaguars. And at the end of morning, I will plan to go over a few summary records. For the in-session documents, we have 6 published now, so please have a look. These will be taken up after the 2-day break. For in-session document CoP20 COM2.2 on LAF, it will be dealt with together with agenda item 67.1. I repeat again for the last one. For the in-session doc COP20 COM2.2 on LAF, it will be dealt with together with agenda item 67.1. And the in-session documents are all published, so please do have a look before the discussion. Okay, so for Saiga Antelope, I heard a lot of debate yesterday on the edits, and my decision is to form a drafting group with countries that had edits. So I will form the drafting group now. So the drafting group, we will have European Union, United States of America, China, Russian Federation, Kazakhstan, and Canada. And Russia Federation, you have the floor.
Госпожа председатель, мы хотели уточнить, речь идет о пункте 85.2 или 85.1?
Yep, so we're looking at 85.2, document 85.2. So the drafting group will look only at the edits of 20AA little b to review the draft decision 20AA paragraph little b contained in the document 85.2 Annex 1. So the drafting group members will be only those that have edits to the document. So it'll be European Union, United States of America, China, Russia Federation, Kazakhstan, and Canada. I also noted Uzbekistan had edits to the document, so they will be added into the drafting group as well. Denmark, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Denmark would like to participate in the drafting group as well. Thank you.
Denmark, I have mentioned that European Union and all its member states can be in the drafting group because the intervention was made on behalf of the member states. United States of America.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you just repeat at the end what the mandate of the drafting group is for our awareness? Because I know that we worked on some revised language this morning that sort of met the intent, but I don't know if that was proposed.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Japan also mentioned the amendment, so we also wish to see Japan in the drafting group. Thank you.
So the terms of the reference is to review draft decision 20AA, paragraph little b, contained in document CoP20, document 85.2, Annex 1. Okay, so I will put this item on hold, so delegates, you can move to Committee 1 if you have to do the SIGA proposal. Thank you. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the European Union and its member states. We would just like to know when are we going to discuss 85.1, or because we have some comments for that one as well. Thank you.
European Union, can I get some clarification on which draft decision you're referring to for document 85.1, Annex 3?
Annex 3, yes.
We have closed draft decision 214, 215, 216, and 217 yesterday. So are you referring to draft decision 213?
Yes.
Yeah, so after the drafting group comes back, then we will deal with 213.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will adjourn this item 85.1 and 85.2 now. Thank you. Now we will go back to agenda 85, document 85, 81, document 81 on Jaguars. Document 81. So I'm just looking at the committee to agree on deleting decisions 19.110 to 19.114 on Jaguars. I open the floor to parties if they have any strong objections to that. Document 81 on Jaguars. Deletion of decisions 19.110 to 114. I see no request. United States of America, you have the floor.
We support the deletions of the decisions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I see no more requests from the floor. The committee agrees to the deletion of decisions 19.110 to 19.114 in document 81. Thank you. I close this agenda item. The next agenda item is 48, containing proposed amendments to Resolution Conference 12.3, Ref CoP19 on CITES permits and certificates. This document has been submitted by 7 parties in the Congo Basin rainforest. I would like to call on one of these 7 parties to briefly introduce the document. Cameroon, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Permettez-moi, avant de vous présenter le document, de vous exprimer toute mon admiration du fait de la dextérité avec laquelle vous dirigez les travaux de ce groupe 2. Madame la Présidente, nous prenons la parole à ce moment décisif où nous pensons apporter une contribution nécessaire à la bonne implémentation de notre Convention. En effet, il est admis que de tous que la coopération, la communication entre les États parties et la régulation constituent des piliers essentiels à la mise en œuvre de la Convention et surtout à la mise en œuvre efficiente et efficace de cette Convention. Nous rappelons avec emphase que l'importance de cet accord ne se démontre plus au fil du temps. Il nous est tous très cher au regard de son impact sur la conservation de notre biodiversité et sur la soutenabilité du commerce international de nos espèces et spécimens d'espèces de faune et de flore inscrites à ces annexes. Pour garantir ces acquis, le Cameroun, avec ses co-auteurs des États du bassin du Congo, a pensé qu'il fallait donner un nouveau souffle au système de gestion et de délivrance des permis et certificats. Depuis plusieurs années, malgré un cadre juridique clair défini par les articles 3 et 4 de la résolution CONF 12.3, les pays exportateurs, notamment l'Afrique centrale, ont encore des difficultés croissantes dans leur échange avec certaines parties importantes. Nous observons notamment des exigences nationales additionnelles, pourtant conformes à l'article 14, mais qui créent des obstacles imprévus. Un affaiblissement du rôle central de la CNP, pourtant au cœur du commerce durable des espèces de l'annexe 2, des demandes de documents supplémentaires, parfois fondés sur des critères subjectifs, et surtout des délais de traitement dépassant souvent les 6 mois entraînant l'expiration des permis pourtant valides. Ces retards ont des conséquences graves. Ils affectent la coopération entre les parties, fragilisent la confiance institutionnelle, perturbent les chaînes d'approvisionnement légal et pénalisent les communautés locales qui dépendent du commerce légal des produits forestiers. Face à cette situation, nos propositions visent 4 objectifs. Garantir les délais raisonnables et contraignants pour le traitement des permis, renforcer la reconnaissance mutuelle entre les autorités de gestion et les autorités scientifiques, réaffirmer le rôle central de la CNP dans les décisions importantes, établir un mécanisme de coordination trilatérale impliquant les parties importatrices, exportatrices et le secteur, notamment en cas de contestation sur l'authenticité et la validité d'un document. Concrètement, dans la version actuelle du document soumis à cette session, nous proposons des amendements au paragraphe 5, alinéa J, et 24, alinéa H, I, M et N de la résolution 12.3.
Cameroon, can I please request you wrap up? Thank you.
Néanmoins, le Cameroun a pris note des propositions d'amélioration du secrétariat dont nous saluons la pertinence et les soutenons, à l'exception de la réserve formulée sur le paragraphe 24I. Nous suggérons donc plutôt de compléter le paragraphe 24I ainsi qu'il suit. Si un consensus n'est pas trouvé à toute contestation de la qualité et de la fiabilité des informations fournies par la partie explorative, la demande des parties importatrices, en vue de lever les réserves relatives à l'émission d'un permis, celle-ci est soumise par les deux parties à l'une des parties à l'avis du comité de la CITES. Je vous remercie.
Gabon, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Notre proposition part d'un constat simple. Des retards excessifs dans la délivrance des permis d'importation, ce même pour des espèces inscrites à l'annexe 2, en raison des procédures qui dépassent le cadre prévu par la Convention au motif de l'article 14. La remise en cause récurrente des avis de commerce non préjudiciables où certains pays importateurs, refusant leur propre avis de commerce non préjudiciable, ne tirent pas parti de ceux des pays d'origine. Ça entraîne des échanges répétés de questions, des délais prolongés et parfois l'expiration des permis. Ces dysfonctionnements, Madame la Présidente, sont vécus par les pays exportateurs. Et cela fragilise les filières qui sont économiquement légales, ça sape la mise en œuvre de la CITES et ça érode la confiance et la coopération entre les parties. Lorsque les parties choisissent d'appliquer des mesures internes qui sont strictes, il est d'autant plus important que ces exigences supplémentaires soient transparentes, clairement communiquées et respecte les principes fondamentaux de la Convention afin d'éviter l'insécurité juridique et les blocages de permis. S'agissant du paragraphe 5J, la proposition ne retire en rien aux pays importateurs leur droit de vérifier la légalité des spécimens. Elle vise simplement à rétablir une présomption minimale de confiance et à mettre fin aux contestations systématiques. Concernant les délais, le Gabon entend les réserves qui ont été émises. Cependant, sans délai raisonnable, les permis expirent et les filières légales se retrouvent paralysées. Les délais qui sont proposés nous paraissent réalistes et compatibles avec l'article 8, paragraphe 3, qui exige que des formalités s'effectuent dans les meilleurs délais. Il s'agit simplement, là, Madame la Présidente, d'une organisation d'un système et ce n'est pas une rigidité. C'est pourquoi, à la lumière des éléments rappelés par le Cameroun et les échanges qui auront lieu en séance, le Gabon appelle les parties à l'adoption du document 48 tel qu'amendé par le secrétariat. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Cameroon and Gabon. So I would also like to draw parties to the comments made by the Secretariat in the document, including not to accept certain amendments and also revision to some others. So now I open the floor to parties, but please keep in mind in your interventions, indicate whether you agree with the suggestions of the Secretariat or you would prefer the draft decisions that were actually that are in the annex. So just be clear in your interventions. Thank you. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Japan supports all comments and amendments proposed by the Secretariat to the resolution 12.3 accordingly. Thank you.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China understands the concerns of Cameroon and other proponents and recognize the importance of strengthening cooperation between importers and exporters to improve the efficiencies of permit approvals. We endorse including constructive measures such as strengthening processing timelines and promoting information sharing and coordination in the revision of CITES ResConf 12.3. Regarding paragraph 5J in Annex 1, the proposed original text may potentially conflict with the due diligence obligations of importing country required under Article 345 of the Convention and the ResConf 11.3. Therefore, we suggest a revision to read as follows. Species or specimens listed in an export permit should be presumed to have been legally acquired in the country of export. However, if the importing country has reasonable grounds and verifiable information to suspect their legality, it may, in accordance with the Convention and relevant resolutions, request the exporting country to conduct further verification and provide necessary information. Our proposed amendment aims to safeguard the rights of the exporting country while retaining the legal space for the importing country to conduct necessary risk management. And regarding paragraph 24L in Annex 1, the proposal to submit permit disputes to the Secretariat and have the Animals and Plants Committee make a binding decision for both parties within 15 days lacks practical feasibility, and the mechanism overlooks difference in the national conditions and management practice of parties, and a mandatory attribution could determine the parties autonomous to solve issues through bilateral consultation. Further, any dispute may go beyond the committee's primary role of providing scientific and technical advice. China believes that the mechanism already exists within CITES. We believe additional recommendations and we have additional recommendations and would like to offer a lead to an intersessional working group with broad membership to identify issues and explore solutions to minimize or eliminate cause of permit delays. China is willing to work with Cameroon and other proponents to jointly improve improve the proposed amendment to ResConf 12.3. The goal is to develop text that can
China,
address...
please wrap up. Thank you.
I'm wrapping up. Thank you, Madam Chair. The goal is to develop a text that can address the issue, balance the concern of all parties, and comply with CITES so as to promote the effectiveness and fair implementation of the Convention. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States thanks Burundi, Cameroon, the Central African Republic, Congo, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, and Gabon for the proposal. However, we strongly oppose the proposed amendments as they would be contrary to the number of provisions of the Convention, including Article 2, Paragraph 4, requiring parties not to allow trade in CITES specimens unless the requirements of the Convention are met, Articles 2, 3, and 4 requiring valid CITES documents for trade in CITES species, Article 14, Paragraph 1, allowing parties to enact stricter domestic measures to the requirements of CITES. We support maintenance of the existing Paragraph 5J, which recommends that parties not accept import of specimens when there is reason to believe that the specimens were not legally acquired, consistent with the requirements of the Convention. The presentation of an export permit does not guarantee legality, and this proposed amendment would undermine the United States and other parties' ability to enforce and implement the requirements of the Convention and significantly hinder their ability to investigate unlawful wildlife trade where evidence and may not have been available to the issuing management authority indicate specimens were not lawfully acquired. The United States opposes the proposed amendments to paragraph 24H as it is contradictory to Article 14 of the Convention by seeking to impose additional obligations and a time frame for decision-making that would conflict with the allowances under CITES for parties to enact stricter domestic measures for CITES-listed species. The United States opposes the proposed amendments to paragraph 24L. The process proposes an arbitration by the Secretariat that would be contrary to Article 8, as well as resource-intensive and demanding for the Secretariat. The Secretariat, along with the Animals and Plants Committee, does not have the authority to overrule a decision made by a party regarding the acceptance of a CITES document. The United States opposes the inclusion of the proposed paragraph 24N as it is unnecessary. The development of CITES Lex offers a means to share the access a party's conservation-related legislation and policies. In addition, Resolution Comp 6.7 on interpretation of Article 4, Paragraph 1 of the Convention provides recommendations for notification and consultation with range states when a party adopts stricter domestic measures. Any difficulties arising with respect to a party's adoption of stricter domestic measures should be resolved through consultation between the parties involved. And the United States could support the draft decision as proposed by the Secretariat, and we oppose the amendments that were presented on the floor by China. Thank you.
UAE, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The UAE thanks the proponent for this important proposal. We recognize the need to improve clarity, efficiency, and trust in the permit process. The UAE supports the Secretariat recommendations, in particular the revised wording of paragraph 24H and the integration of information sharing into paragraph 3AB. These changes strengthen transparency and predictability. At the same time, we cannot support amendment that would presume legal acquisition based solely on the existence of an export permit, or that would assign an arbitration role to the Secretariat or technical committees. These proposals would go beyond the Convention and weaken existing safeguards. We support practical improvements, but any changes must preserve due process, national authority, and the legal framework of CITES. Thank you, Chair.
DRC, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. La RDC élabore pour les espèces d'arbres des ACMP solides basés sur les données issus de plus de 20 ans des plans de gestion durable de ces forêts. Pourtant, les retards importants dans la délivrance des permis d'importation, parfois bien au-delà de la validité des permis d'exportation, entraînent de graves conséquences économiques, stocks immobilisés, perte d'emplois et ralentissement de la formation locale. Comme le montrent les données de nos services, la survie de certaines entreprises de la filière est aujourd'hui menacée. Pour l'une d'entre elles, à titre d'exemple, les réductions des quotas et les retards de traitement signifient chaque année plusieurs milliers de mètres cubes non valorisés et l'équivalent de plus de 400 travailleurs mis en chômage technique. Ces difficultés touchent directement les communautés locales qui bénéficient, conformément à notre législation, des investissements du secteur forestier dans leur développement. Ainsi, des simples lourdeurs administratives risquent d'affaiblir fortement ces populations et de les faire retomber dans une précarité que l'activité forestière durable leur permettait de dépasser. La proposition 48 répond pleinement à l'esprit de l'article 8 en garantissant de délais raisonnables et une meilleure fluidité des procédures. La République démocratique du Congo appelle à l'adoption du document du secrétariat avec les amendements du secrétariat et les ajustements complémentaires apportés par le Cameroun. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the EU and its member states. We recognize the issues raised by the proponents as prompted by stricter domestic measures or additional national requirements, such as, for example, the EU wildlife trade regulations. These regulations have been implemented since 1997 and require the EU member states' authorities to formulate a legal acquisition finding and non-detriment finding for the import of Appendix 2 specimens. We recognize that such a double check might result in additional workload for both exporting and importing parties. At the same time, it provides additional safeguards and ensures that the importing countries assume their responsibility and do not contribute to the deterioration of the conservation status of the species. We consider that the amendments to Resolution 12.3 and the recommendations made in the document are in contradiction with Article 14 of the Convention. In addition, these procedures would significantly increase the workload for both the importing and exporting parties, as well as potentially for the CITES Animals and Plants Committees and the CITES Secretariat. We thus cannot support the amendments to Resolution 12.3 or the recommendations made by the Secretariat, and we would like to ensure that, as always, we welcome bilateral discussions, and we are also at the moment having a way forward, seeking a way forward to the Central African countries, as well as with any other party, to identify possibilities to address these concerns raised in the document instead of opening additional processes under CITES. Thank you, Chair.
Canada, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Canada remercie les partis pour leurs propositions et partage certaines des préoccupations soulevées concernant les retards excessifs dans la délivrance des permis d'importation. Cependant, nous sommes d'accord avec les commentaires du secrétariat selon lesquels la modification proposée au paragraphe 5J ne devrait pas être adoptée. Il appartient à l'organe de gestion du pays d'importation de déterminer si les spécimens sont importés légalement et si les permis d'exportation et les certificats de réexportation satisfont aux exigences de la Convention. Nous sommes également d'accord avec les modifications proposées par le secrétariat au paragraphe 24 24H avec une modification mineure et au paragraphe 24L, ainsi qu'avec les modifications apportées par le secrétariat au paragraphe 3A existant. En conclusion, le Canada peut accepter les modifications à la résolution 12.3 telles que proposées par le secrétariat. Le Canada ne peut accepter les modifications proposées dans le document original. Merci.
Okay, I have a really long list of speakers, so I'll just take a few from different regions. I just want to see their views first. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Malaysia does not support the proposals to amend paragraph 5J of the resolution COP 12.3, REF COP19, as suggested by the proponents. Malaysia believes that it is the prerogative of parties to enforce measures in ensuring the sustainable trade of CITES specimens. Malaysia also agrees with the recommendation by the CITES Secretariat to not adopt the amendment of paragraph 24I(L), where any dispute between parties should be resolved amicably by mutual consent. Malaysia is flexible with the amendment of paragraph 24H and N. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Australia opposes the recommendations and the amendments in the original document, and we share the views expressed by the US and the EU and others. By way of compromise, we could accommodate the Secretariat's recommendations, although it would be our preference not to amend the resolution at all. Thank you.
Okay, from what I'm hearing from the floor, I think we may be going towards a working group because I think the authors and also certain parties did mention they're willing to come together to see how to compromise. So I'll give the party to non-parties and observer organization first, then I'll come back on the mandate of the working group. ATIBT, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente pour la parole. La TIBT soutient les amendements formulés dans le document 48 comme accepté par le Cameroun. Nous voulons indiquer que comme vous le savez, et comme largement indiqué et rappelé ici, l'article 14 de la Convention autorise les parties à adopter des mesures domestiques plus strictes, notamment l'exigence d'un permis d'importation pour les espèces de l'annexe 2. Selon notre compréhension, le document proposé ne vise pas à remettre en question cette disposition de la Convention. Cependant, nous souhaitons attirer l'attention sur certaines difficultés engendrées par des mécanismes actuellement en place pour sa mise en œuvre. En Afrique centrale, plusieurs pays ont développé des ACNP, on a vu de commerce non préjudiciable, fondés sur des données robustes d'inventaire forestier, conformément aux orientations de la Convention et notamment aux orientations du module 10 de la CITES sur les ACNP. Malgré cela, comme indiqué, de nombreux pays rencontrent d'importants obstacles à obtenir des permis d'importation. Dans certains cas, les délais dépassent les 18 mois, ce qui semble contraire à l'esprit de l'article 8 de la Convention. Ces retards compromettent sérieusement le commerce légal, traçable et durable que la CITES a précisément vocation à encadrer. Ils fragilisent les opérateurs économiques engagés dans la légalité et nuisent à une filière qui, dans la région, repose largement sur des concessions forestières aménagées et souvent certifiées selon des standards internationaux largement reconnus. À contrario, cette situation pourrait favoriser le développement d'un commerce illégal tout en mobilisant davantage les efforts des pays. Il est important de rappeler que ces concessions contribuent d'une manière décisive à la durabilité des forêts, à la conservation de la biodiversité et au maintien des emplois locaux, au développement local des zones rurales défavorisées et à une stabilité socio-économique des pays producteurs. Nous invitons donc les parties à envisager des pistes essentielles, notamment un mécanisme de reconnaissance mutuelle des avis de commerce non préjudiciables fondés sur des données scientifiquement solides, des procédures d'émission de permis d'importation plus efficaces, plus transparentes, afin de ne pas entraver les chaînes d'approvisionnement légales et durables, ni de compromettre les efforts de conservation et de gestion durables mis en œuvre sur le terrain. Notre objectif est commun, que les mesures de précaution légitimes ne deviennent pas un frein injustifié.
ATIBT, yeah. Can I request you wrap up? It's over 2 minutes. Thank you.
Donc nous soutenons les amendements tels que proposés par le secrétariat et acceptés par le Cameroun. Merci.
Okay, so I'll be striking a working group. The working group will consider the elements of the document. So for 5J, I did not hear support for that. For 24H, I did hear, maybe clarity on the language or edit of the language to discuss the proposal based on Secretariat's comments. And then for 24L, I also did not hear support for that. For 24N, I did hear some support for Secretariat's proposal for amending paragraph 3AB instead. So the mandate of the working group will only look at 24H using the comments from the Secretariat. So that means the Secretariat's comments, 24H and 24N for para 3A, 3AB. So if you look at comments of the Secretariat in document 48, so the working group will look at the amendment of 24H based on the comments of the Secretariat and also 24N, looking at paragraph 3AB. So now I will ask for the membership of the working group. Can you please clear the list? Thank you. Okay, if you're interested in the working group, please press your button. Thank you. I'm looking at parties first. So observer organizations, please unpress your button. Thank you. Okay, so I'll read out the list. I have Australia, United Kingdom, Congo, Gabon, United States of America, Germany, China, India, European Union, Cameroon, South Africa, Zimbabwe, DRC, Tanzania, Denmark, Central African Republic, Switzerland, Philippines. Okay, now I'm looking for observers. ATIBT, Parrot Breeder Association, Lewis and Clark, IWMC, IWPA, Sustainable Eel Group, Center for Biological Diversity, ITTO, AZA, David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation. And SA Taxidermy and Tannery Association. I'm looking for a chair for the working group. United States of America, thank you. Thank you very much. The next agenda item is item 59 on stocks and stockpiles. The document is submitted by the Standing Committee. The Conference of Parties is invited to consider the definition of stockpiles for the inclusion in the CITES glossary of terms. The conference is also invited to agree that the term stock should not be used in the context of stored dead specimens, and therefore adopt amendments to 6 resolutions in the annex, and also to delete decision 17.170. I also draw your attention to the comments made by Secretariat in the document. So before I open the floor on the definition of stockpile, I would first like to seek parties' views on recommendations B, C, and D. The recommendations 11B, C, and D in document 59. I open the floor for parties. Benin, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous disons aussi merci au secrétariat et aux partis pour le travail visant à clarifier la définition sur le stockpile que nous utiliserons, qui sera insérée dans le glossaire de la CITES. Nous jugeons cette définition globalement acceptable, sous réserve d'un ajustement que nous voulons apporter à la recommandation. Et nous proposons que soit supprimée la mention ainsi que
Benin, just hold your intervention because I'm looking at recommendations 11B, C, and D. We'll come back to definition later on. So do you have...
Oui, je suis, Madame la Présidente, je suis en train de parler de la 11C. Sur la 11C, je voudrais que soit supprimée la mention ainsi que les spécimens saisis ou confisqués faisant objet de procédures judiciaires. En effet, si vous permettez que je continue, Madame la Présidente, dans nos pays, les procédures issues des espèces sauvages saisies, notamment l'ivoire, peuvent rester dans les procédures judiciaires pendant de longues durées, parfois même des années. Il est donc important et essentiel qu'il soit clair que ces spécimens saisis font partie du stock d'une partie, afin de s'assurer de l'exactitude des déclarations et aussi de réduire les risques de disparition de ces spécimens. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The UK supports the recommendations to the Standing Committee in subparagraphs B, C and D of paragraph 11 of CoP20.59, and we do have some comments on the definition which we'll come back to. Thank you.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just a second. Brazil, of course, welcomes the document as it's presented in the draft decisions and the recommendations. However, we cannot endorse the comments made by the Secretariat. Since there is the Secretary proposed restriction the consideration of privately held stockpiles to only where specified in a resolution or decision. We think that effective control of stockpiles of fauna and flora specimens listed in an appendix of the Convention requires thorough governmental control over all existing stockpiles, private or governmental ones, especially those held by private agents. Otherwise, we may risk encouraging illegal activities and the use of these stockpiles as mechanism to mask and launder specimens of illegal origin. Thank you.
Brazil, I noted that you support the decision, the recommendations 11B, C, and D, and you were commenting about the definition. correct?
You're correct. We endorse the decisions as is in the document. We're just making an intervention on the comments of the Secretariat. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I speak on behalf of EU and its member states, and we would like to align ourselves with the explanations from UK and Brazil, and would like to make some amendments to the proposed definition before we can support the recommendations B, C, and D. Thank you.
Okay, I'll close the speaker list for B, C, and D. I have Zimbabwe, India, Togo, Qatar. I've heard support for agreeing the recommendations B, C, and D, so I will just take, okay, Zimbabwe, India, and Togo last. So Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you so much for giving us the floor. We agree with the recommendations 11B, C, and D. However, we do have minor edits on the draft definition when the right time comes. Thank you, Chair.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. India wishes to thank Standing Committee for the document CoP20 Doc 59. While India supports the draft definition of stockpiles for inclusion in the CITES glossary, we would reiterate that the fact there should be a difference between how stock piles of Appendix 1 species
India,
on
we're
one
not
hand,
talking about that yet. I'm asking if you're agreeing to B, C, and D.
we agree for that.
Togo, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Merci au secrétariat pour avoir proposé le document 59. Nous joignons notre voix à celle du Bénin en recommandant la suppression de la mention ainsi que les spécimens saisis ou confisqués faisant l'objet de la procédure judiciaire. Madame la Présidente, nous reconnaissons toutefois que les situations diffèrent d'une certaine région à une autre, comme dans certains parties où les procédures judiciaires sont généralement plus rapides. Dans cet esprit, nous sommes ouverts à l'introduction d'un délai limité permettant de répondre à certaines réalités. Nous proposons donc d'ajouter les mots qui durent jusqu'à 30 jours après faisant l'objet d'une procédure judiciaire. La phrase se lira ainsi. Ainsi que les spécimens saisis ou confisqués faisant l'objet d'une procédure judiciaire qui dure jusqu'à 30 jours. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
So I will conclude for B, C, and D. There was agreement. So now we will move to the definition, which is in A. So I have heard from Togo. Parties which wanted to speak about the definition, you can. Okay, United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to the definition, we do recognise the potential benefits of an agreed definition of stockpiles, which might resolve some of the issues with reporting. We also recognise that this definition has been under discussion for quite a while now, but think it does merit further discussion before we can agree to it, as we still have a number of concerns with it as proposed in the document, and I'll go through these in order as they appear in the definition. Just to start with a general point, we continue to have concerns with the proposed definition referring to any quantity of specimens. We would not consider 1 or 2 specimens to constitute a stockpile. We're not proposing any specific amendments, we just wanted to have that on record that we don't agree with that part of it. But more specifically, we've got some amendments to propose. It's not clear to us why the definition refers to legally stored dead specimens and what this means in practice, so we would propose the deletion of legally. We have concerns that museums were deleted from the definition at Standing Committee 78, and the suggestion at that time was that they could come under the definition of scientific institution. Whilst this may be the case for some museums, it won't be for all. So we propose the reinsertion of museums and after collections held by. We also propose the deletion of permanent But the inclusion in the definition of permanent would mean that it wouldn't include temporary exhibitions or collections on loan to an institution, for example, and we do not think items in temporary exhibitions should become classified as a stockpile. We also, along the lines that have already been said by other parties, we also propose deletion of the phrase, as well as seized or confiscated specimens still under an enforcement procedure. Excluding these items, which as we understand can remain in storage for long periods and may represent a significant volume of material, may create gaps in monitoring and increase risks of diversion or theft. Further, we have some concerns with the last sentence of the proposed definition, which we consider falls outside the scope of CITES. We propose that the following text should be deleted from the last sentence. And for specimens of species listed in Appendix 1, not to be used commercially. Lastly, we do not support the Secretariat's proposed amendment to add government-held and, where specified in a resolution or decision, privately held stockpiles to the last paragraph. We do not think this additional text is necessary. Thank you.
Okay, I'm closing the speaker list because it's quite a number. I have India, Japan, Mexico, European Union, Australia, Burkina Faso, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Kuwait. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While India supports a draft definition of stockpiles for inclusion in CITES glossary, we would reiterate the fact that there should be a difference between how stocks and stockpiles of Appendix 1 species on one hand and Appendix 2 and 3 species on other should be treated, since the Convention allows for commercial international trade of Appendix 2 and 3 species. This differentiation is required to be brought out in the definition for clarity and implementation by parties. Thank you, Chair.
Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For recommendation 11A, we welcome the suggestion of amendment by the Secretariat on page 5. When applied in practice, there may be some distinction between privately held and government-held stockpiles in line with each resolutions and decisions. We support this amendment. In addition, since the Convention itself doesn't include any concept of stockpile, the resolutions concerning stockpile must take into account applicable national laws of each party. We would like to propose to insert, based on the amendment suggested by the Secretariat, after where specified in a resolution or decision, comma, insert, taking into account applicable national laws, comma, and continue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. En cuanto a la definición, México sugiere la definición en el glosario, la siguiente definición. Por existencia se entiende cualquier cantidad de especímenes muertos legalmente almacenados, incluidos partes y derivados de especies incluidas en los apéndices de las CITES, en posesión de entidades públicas o privadas. Quedan excluidas de la definición los especímenes que forman parte de las colecciones permanentes conservadas por instituciones científicas con fines no comerciales o por particulares como artículos personales o bienes del hogar, así como especímenes decomisados o confiscados que aún no son objeto de un procedimiento de aplicación de la ley. Por lo que México apoya que se acuerde no utilizar el término reservas en el contexto de los especímenes muertos almacenados, tal como se define, y apoyar la adopción de las enmiendas a las resoluciones que figuran en el anexo del presente documento. Muchas gracias, Presidenta.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The EU and its member states cannot support the definition of stockpiles in its current form. At SC 78, we opposed the proposal to limit the definition to legally stored specimens, as this would exclude legacy or previously illegal stockpiles from CITES oversight, which still require monitoring and secure management. This objection has regrettably not been reflected in the current working document nor the presented definition. Additionally, the definition should explicitly include museums, along with scientific institutions and individuals, among exempted permanent collections held for non-commercial purposes. This ensures that legitimate museum holdings are not inadvertently treated as stockpiles and avoids unnecessary administrative burden. Only if these amendments are made can we support the proposed decisions and amendments to replace stocks with stockpiles in the relevant 5 resolutions and agree to delete decision 17.170. Furthermore, we cannot support the full text of the change to the definition proposed by the Secretariat. This change would require continuous monitoring not only of the management but also the storage and disposal of privately held stockpiles, which would represent a disproportionate administrative burden and is not feasible due to national legislation. The phrase, and I quote, "and where specified in a resolution or decision, comma, privately held," should therefore be deleted. Thank you.
Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We agree with Brazil's comments about the need for all stockpiles, whether held by governments or privately held, to be contained within this resolution, or definition, my apologies. The challenges identified by Brazil are not limited to stockpiles of floral products, but are also relevant to stockpiles of dried marine products as well. We therefore do not support the Secretariat's proposed amendments. Thank you.
Burkina Faso, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Comme le Bénin et le Togo, le Burkina Faso soutient la proposition, mais avec la suppression de la partie ainsi que les spécimens saisis ou confisqués faisant l'objet d'une procédure judiciaire. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Zimbabwe agrees with the definition as it appears in this current document, but we however wish to add museums to the list of exempted institutions. Thank you, Chair.
Nigeria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We support the intervention made by the UK regarding the deletion of CITES products which are still under enforcement procedures from the exemption list. By 28 February 2025, there have been 890 tons of ivory declared by 24 parties, of which the majority, 92%, was found in Africa, followed by Asia. This means that the 2 regions will be affected the most by the definition, which may guide us on how to declare our stockpiles. Wildlife crime is a transnational organized crime that requires coordinated efforts by multiple agencies and countries. Once an interception takes place, investigations and relevant enforcement procedures concerning the individuals and entities involved can take time considerably. Accordingly, we recommend removing confiscated products that are still under enforcement procedures from the exemption list in order to improve stockpiles management. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Kuwait, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Kuwait supports the Secretariat's amendment to the definition of stockpile under items 59. Thank you.
I now open to non-parties and observer organizations. EIA UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're speaking on behalf of EIA, Center for Biological Diversity, and 11 other organizations. We welcome this effort to clarify the use of the term stockpiles at CITES and support the intervention made by Benin, Brazil, Togo, the UK, the EU, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria, especially regarding the specimens under an enforcement procedure. We believe the proposed definition of stockpiles is weakened by the inclusion of seized or confiscated wildlife specimens still under an enforcement procedure in the list of exemptions. Seized or confiscated specimens, particularly in large quantities, often remain under enforcement procedures for extended periods of time and can constitute a substantial proportion of government-held stockpiles. During these prolonged procedures, they may be vulnerable for theft or misplacement. Including seized products, which are still under enforcement action in the definition, is needed to enable comprehensive monitoring and reporting, making any change in stockpile levels, whether from theft, leakage, or mismanagement, easier to detect and address. We also strongly oppose the amendment suggested by the Secretariat to exclude private stockpiles, as it would substantially reduce oversight of these stockpiles. Several resolutions, including Resolution Conf 9.14 on conservation of and trade in rhino, do not distinguish between government and privately held stockpiles. Adopting the Secretariat's amendment would create a loophole excluding privately held stockpiles of many specimens of CITES-listed species and weaken stockpile management and monitoring. To summarize, the text, as well as seized or confiscated specimens still under an enforcement procedure, should be deleted from the proposed definition, and the remaining definition text should remain unchanged. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that everyone agrees that there is merit in having definition of stockpiles. It's just that there's no consensus on the language. So I don't want to debate further on, the definition. And as mentioned by parties, this has been discussed many, many times. So to move forward, I'm actually suggesting that we continue this work intersessionally. So we will need to come up with a draft decision so that work can continue. I just want to get some views if there's any objection to my suggestion moving forward, which is to continue the work, come up with a draft decision so that work can be done intersessionally. United States of America, with the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you suggested, we have really been working on this definition for a long time, and I think that we are close in a lot of areas and would like to work on this decision here at COP20 in hopes that we can get this definition hammered out. So an in-session working group would be the preference of the United States instead of a draft decision to keep this discussion going on in the Standing Committee.
Canada, you have the floor.
Pardon me. Thank you, Chair. Canada would concur with the United States. There has been quite a bit of work done, and from what we heard on the floor, we think it is possible to reach an agreement with a bit of discussion here in an in-session working group. We are reminded what we are working on is a definition so that we have a common understanding, but the actions that we recommend be taken for these things are found in the resolutions. So this is really just about our understanding of the scope of this definition, and from what we hear, we think it is possible to come to an agreement here. Thank you.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think I would like to echo the comments from the US and Canada that we believe that we have heard from the room that there is possibility of trying to reach consensus here in this COP, and we think this discussion can, further discussions inside a drafting group or in-session working group could try to find this agreement. We are flexible on how to proceed on that, but we really think that we should do all our efforts in the sense of trying to find a consensus on that definition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, parties. That is brilliant that, at least finally we have consensus on how we're going to move forward. So thank you very much. Yeah, so, okay, we can form a drafting group, a small drafting group. So I will open the floor to parties who wants to be in this drafting group, but I just will be also seeing who make comments. So I don't want a big group. Yeah. No, okay, let me see. Just hang on. Okay, so I will close the list now, and I have these members for the drafting group. Kenya, United States of America, United Kingdom, Australia, China, Brazil, Russia Federation, Japan, European Union, Zimbabwe, Zambia, South Africa, Burkina Faso. Can I have a chair for this working group, for this drafting group? Oh, we don't, do we? Yeah. Do we need, I need a chair for the drafting group. United Kingdom, you'll be the chair for the drafting group. Thank you very much. Mexico, okay, and including Mexico. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So I will adjourn this item, and so the drafting group can work on it. Thank you very much. And yeah, to work on the definition only. Thank you. The next document is 60, Transport of Live Specimens. The document is submitted by the Standing Committee, and the Conference of Parties is invited to adopt the draft decision on transport of live specimens and delete the old decisions 19.158 to 19.159. I draw your attention that the Secretariat does not support the new decisions. I now open the floor to parties. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. India wishes to thank the Standing Committee for the document CoP20 Doc 60. CITES has adopted the IATA live animal regulations and IATA perishable cargo regulation as it is a standard for the transport of live animals and plants as per the convention. It is important that these to be available to the management authorities of parties free of charge. India therefore supports the draft decision 20AA as contained in Annex to CoP20 Doc 60, directed to the Secretariat in consultation with the Standing Committee to work with IATA to make available at the nominal cost or free of on an annual basis to authorized representative, so that the management authority and enforcement authorities as electronic or hard copies. Thank you.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Briefly, we are in agreement with the draft decision in the document.
Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. URT appreciate the Standing Committee Chair for presenting the document and thanks the Secretariat for organizing the workshop on transporting live specimen, which improved parties' understanding of applying IATA live animal regulation, IATA perishable cargo regulations, and CITES non-chair transport guidelines. URT also thanks the Secretariat in Germany for providing digital license for the IATA live animal regulation, which supported smooth and compliant transport of live specimen. URT welcomed the Standing Committee's recommendation in paragraph 7, noting that the adoption will help least developed countries access the necessary IATA regulations. Thank you, Chair.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We sincerely thank the Secretariat, the Standing Committee, the countries who funded this effort, and all speakers and participants in last year's workshop. We also thank IATA for participating in discussions. The U.S. strongly supports the draft decision 20AA. This is essential work. If CITES listed live animals and plants are not properly shipped according to the transport requirements, not only does this invalidate the CITES permit or certificate, but this creates vulnerabilities for animal and human health, because we know that stressed animals are vulnerable animals to infectious diseases. The IATA regulations are well regarded and accepted industry standards, and while airlines can afford access, parties and small businesses often cannot, and the access granted earlier this year was an excellent opportunity, and we're deeply appreciative to the Secretariat and to IATA for providing this opportunity. We think this could be offered on an annual basis or another periodic basis, And if that's not possible, then it may be worth exploring more affordable and transparent alternatives that would be easily published on the CITES website. Thank you very much.
United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The UK would like to thank the Standing Committee for this document. Whilst the UK is supportive of universal access to the latest IATA regulations, we note the Secretariat's lengthy discussions with IATA during the intersessional period and their conclusion that free access is not possible. We furthermore note that party uptake for discounted access codes for the 2025 edition was low. The budgetary impacts of pursuing this work should be weighed up against parties' appetite for access. Therefore, the UK supports the Secretariat's position to delete decisions 19.158 and 19.159. We are open to amendments to the draft decisions to encourage parties to seek support through another mechanism. Thank you, Chair.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. To be brief, Canada supports the adoption of the draft decision and the deletion of the previous decisions, and our reasoning is very similar to that stated by the United States, so we agree with the comments from the United States. We do note the comments of the Secretariat and the comments of the United Kingdom, and like the United States indicated, if there are challenges, if it's not possible, we would also be interested in hearing other options to ensure the transparent availability of these types of guidelines. Thank you.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Brazil appreciates the efforts of the Secretary in trying to reach out to IATA. This is important work we think we should continue. We also think that the manual helps to mitigate the risk of injury, damage to health, or cruel treatment of animals. Then Brazil appreciate very much this. We, for instance, have used the codes indicated in the document, which have been proven to be very useful for our management authorities, and we think that those codes should be available, continue to be available. Thank you very much.
I open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. Isai, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of AZA, IAZA, WAZA, AFDPZ, WCS, ZSL, AMPA, and the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance. We do not believe that Decision 19.159 has been fully implemented and support the continuation of this work. As we've stated previously, the key entities, namely the importers and exporters who are required to comply with the ever-evolving IATA live animal regulations, continue to be left out of opportunities to access them. We support the new proposed decision with the following amendments. We propose to insert the phrase, "the regulated community," into two places, so I will read the full draft decision with the words inserted. The Secretariat shall, in consultation with the Standing Committee, work with IATA to make available at nominal cost or for free on an annual basis to the regulated community and authorized representatives of the management authorities and enforcement authorities as electronic or hard copies, depending on the needs of the party whose sections of the IATA live animal regulations and IATA perishable cargo regulations relevant for authorities and the regulated community to meet CITES conditions. If the regulated community is unable to gain more reasonable access to the regulations they're responsible for meeting, we encourage the Secretariat to explore development of transport regulations that are transparent and accessible to all. Thank you, Chair.
Born Free Foundation, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I am making this intervention on behalf of 10 observer organizations. We welcome the securing of digital single-user licenses for the 2025 edition of the IATA LARs and support the proposed decision in Annex A. We also urge parties to call for the further review and revision of the CITES non-air transport guidelines in order to ensure welfare conditions for live animals in transport are consistent with and complement the implementation of the MOU with WOA and the wider role of CITES in reducing risk of future zoonotic disease emergence associated with international wildlife trade. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'll give the floor to Secretariat for some comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the parties and the observers for sharing their comments. So despite the extensive and sustained negotiations with the International Air Transport Associations, the Secretariat could secure the free access to live animal regulations. Free, that is, actually it was not free because we had to purchase the codes and with the generous support of Germany. However, after issuing the notification, we must clarify that there were only 10 requests from eligible developing country parties to access the codes. And then the codes were approaching expiry end of this year. And the Secretariat has since then shared basically unsolicited requests. There were no requests, and we basically share the remaining codes with a new group of 79 eligible developing country parties so that the codes do not go unused. So in total, 89 parties received 120 single-user digital access code to IATA LAR. Now, the main issue remains here is the license remains valid for 1 year, and future access, including for the 2026 edition and beyond, would require purchases, creating an ongoing financial obligation because we need to create the contracts beforehand, before the year, and given the limited uptake and the recurring nature of this cost, the Secretariat believes that, and also there is a significant human resources required to continue such procurements. The Secretariat considers that pursuing this additional LAR access codes would not constitute a practical or efficient use of resources. Now, on the issue of the alternatives, we would like to hear perhaps if there is any alternative suggested by the parties or others. To the knowledge of the Secretariat, the single-user access code is the cheapest option that IATA provides, and in fact, the pricing of the codes that we received was heavily discounted by the IATA after our negotiation, although not free. So we would like to, if there are any other alternatives that are cheaper option, and we would like to perhaps hear from you. And I would also like to note here that the Secretariat remains engaged with IATA every year through participating at the Live Animal Perishable Boards, LAPB, that IATA has 2 meetings every year. That would be, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Okay, from the floor, I see that there is consensus in supporting this draft decision. So my suggestion is that we go ahead and accept this draft decision, 20AA. I have United States of America. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We're grateful to the Secretariat for those efforts, which are significant, and we appreciate the comments. We haven't arrived at an alternative yet. We do note that, of course, the parties did create the non-air transport guidelines, but those are, more a subset of species. And so the IATA live animal regulations and PCR still are the standard, and we'll continue looking for solutions and considering alternatives. In the meantime, we support 20AA, and we did hear AZA's comments about adding and the regulated community, and we would support adding and the regulated community with the caveat that we would place the authorized representatives of the management authorities and enforcement authorities as the priority in this decision. Thank you, Chair.
United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The UK would like to suggest some amendments to the text, just to add a bit more flexibility. So where it says the Secretariat shall, in consultation with the Standing Committee, work with IATA to identify options or mechanisms to establish ongoing access. So add that in rather than the reference to a nominal cost or for free, just so there's more flexibility in the options to be considered. Thank you.
Can you please repeat again?
So where it says the Secretariat shall, in consultation with the Standing Committee, work with IATA to, and then our suggestion is to put there, identify options or mechanisms to establish ongoing access.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the Secretariat for describing their ongoing efforts, and we recognize the challenge they're facing. We do not have an alternative to offer at this time, and for that reason, we would nonetheless prefer the renewal of the decision or the adoption of the decision. Similar to the United States, we can accept the amendments proposed by the AZA and for other groups with the approach proposed by the United States. I think we're okay with the proposal as well from the United Kingdom. With regard to alternatives, however, in the interim, Canada will commit to working with partners and colleagues to see if there are other ways that we can consider how to best provide guidance to management authorities to ensure that they can implement the obligations of the Convention in terms of the transport of live specimens, in acknowledging the challenges that the Secretariat has noted. Thank you.
Okay, I think I know where we can go from here. I'll just take one last speaker. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We are in line with the comments made by previous speakers, except from the comment made by the UK, but we think that we can try to find some language there, in the sense that we think that the wording proposed by the UK is okay, as long as we maintain work with IATA, because we think that we could try to live with an option along those lines, work with IATA and identify options and mechanisms to establish ongoing access. So our proposal is to have both in the text. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I will just read the draft decision 20AA with the edits, just so that we are on the same page. So 20AA document 60. The Secretariat shall, in consultation with the Standing Committee, work with IATA to identify options or mechanisms to establish ongoing access, to make available at nominal cost or for free on an annual basis, to authorize representatives of the management authorities, delete and, enforcement authorities, and the regulated communities as electronic or hard copies, and the remaining sentence follows. I repeat again. The Secretariat shall, in consultation with the Standing Committee, work with IATA to identify options or mechanisms to establish ongoing access, to make available at nominal cost, then it follows, to management authorities, enforcement authorities, and the regulated communities as electronic or hard copies. I'm seeking views to see if there's any strong objection to the new. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Apologies, Secretariat. Sorry, Chair. Our amendments for identifying options or mechanisms to establish ongoing access, that was instead of the wording make available nominal cost or for free on an annual basis. So removing that and going straight on to identifying options or mechanisms to establish ongoing access to authorised representatives of the management authorities and enforcement. So yeah, removing the nominal cost or for free to add that flexibility in there. Thank you.
United Kingdom, I honestly don't think parties will be agreeable to that because, you know, they would still want the centers to make available at nominal cost or for free. So my suggestion would be to include your edits, identify options or mechanisms to establish ongoing access to, or to make available, so that, you know, there's two options, because I honestly don't think parties will agree to remove all of the nominal costs. Yeah, European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Let me first of all make a general but very quick comment. I think we are in a difficult situation here in this context where we have rules that are applicable, but we don't get free access to the rules. That's a problem. Now, I think the smart option would have been, when developing the rules together with IATA, to make sure that we get free access to the rules later on. We missed out on that, but we should keep that in mind for future developments of rules with private actors, that we don't fall into that trap again, and then we are faced with a bottleneck situation and are in a really difficult negotiation position. Now, looking at the proposals that are there, first of all, I would suggest that the scientific authorities should also be added after the management authorities when we look at possible access together with the enforcement agencies. And then we are a bit reluctant to include the regulated community as beneficials of the licenses that are acquired by the Secretariat on the basis of external funds. I think it's good to have a priority decision in there and make sure that the parties have a priority, but maybe we are just making it too broad, and I think there should be other solutions for the regulated communities. We can't cover. I think it's hard to cover that as well from the side of CITES. Thank you very much. Sorry, and I forgot UK proposal. Yes. And we are on board with the UK proposal. Thank you.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We can accept the inclusion of scientific authorities as proposed by the EU. However, we would have issues on removing the text that would allow for the nominal cost or free on an annual basis, because this is, as mentioned in my first intervention, is quite important for us to have access, free access to those manuals, and then we could not live with this option. Thank you.
Okay, so Secretary has explained that for the access, it's always given to management authorities only. And then through the management authority, they can decide who they give. So they can give to scientific authority, enforcement authorities, or regulated communities. So we're going to change the language a bit so as to reflect that. So I just say again is that the access is always given to management authorities, and they can decide who to give to. So based on the comments, I'm just going to reword the language again and see if there's any objection. The Secretariat shall, in consultation with the Standing Committee, work with IATA to identify options or mechanisms to establish ongoing access or to make available at nominal cost or for free on an annual basis to authorize representatives of the management authorities and through them, scientific authorities, enforcement authorities, and the regulated communities. Then the rest follows. Okay, I really want to move on. So if no objection, I will take this as accepted, this new draft decision, and I close this agenda item, but also to delete the decisions 19.158 and 19.159. I close this item. Thank you very much. The next document or agenda item is 46, marine turtles. 46, document is submitted by the Standing Committee. Conference of Parties is invited to adopt the amendments to Resolution Conference 19.5 and to delete decision 18.217. I draw your attention that Secretariat has provided comments. I will now first open the floor to parties. Thank you. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Japan would like to express its appreciation for the efforts made by the Secretariat and parties on this matter. Japan generally supports the recommendations, including the proposed amendment of the resolution. Japan will continue to engage in management measures necessary for the conservation and protection of the marine turtles through domestic legislation such as Fisheries Act, Act on Protection of Marine Resources, Act on Conservation of Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, Natural Parks Act, and Cultural Properties Protection Act. Thank you very much, Chair.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the EU and its member state and the Caribbean part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. As a range state, we appreciate the work done and fully support the amendments to Resolution Conf 19.5 on the conservation of and trade in marine turtles, as contained in the annex. And we support the deletion of the implemented decision 18.217 Rev CoP 19. We can also support the editorial changes as proposed by the Secretariat to correct the names of instruments and better align the terminology, as well as adjust the terminology to reflect the various development stages of marine turtles on page 2 and 3 of the document. Thank you.
Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Malaysia supports the adoption of the proposed amendments to Resolution Conference 19.5 contained in the annex, as they are aligned with Malaysia's current conservation action. Malaysia also supports the deletion of Decision 18.217 Revision CoP 19, as the work under this decision has already been completed. Malaysia implements several existing measures consistent with the provision reference, including the application of turtle excluded device in trawl fisheries, the establishment and management of marine protected and turtle conservation areas, across federal and state jurisdiction and ongoing enforcement collaboration with relevant national authorities on market wildlife protection matters. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal prend la parole pour remercier le comité permanent pour le travail qui a été fait et soutient vraiment le document de demande aux partis de s'investir là-dessus pour empêcher toute prise de commercialisation des espèces de tortues marines. Aujourd'hui, nous vivons des formes d'exploitation de ces espèces qui semblent intriguer quand même la conscience humaine. Merci.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We support the adoption of the draft amendment to the resolution conference 19.5 as contained in the annex to the present document. Thank you, Chair.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. As others, Brazil fully supports the amendment proposed to Resolution Conf 19.5 indicated in the document. Thank you.
Okay, I do see support, consensus in supporting to adopt this draft resolution, so I will be closing the speaker list. I have Colombia, Sudan, Mexico, Liberia, Fiji, and Argentina. Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Agradecemos el trabajo en la elaboración de ese documento y Colombia apoya las enmiendas relacionadas con tortugas marinas. Gracias.
Okay, so if on the list everyone is supporting, could you please unpress your button so that I can sum up and close this item? Sudan, Mexico, Fiji. Yeah, okay, thank you. I still have Sudan. Okay, Fiji. If you're in support, please unpress your button so that I can sum up the discussions. Okay, Fiji, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, we are in support, but we would like to make our intervention focusing on our cultural perspective. We wanted to reiterate and for your record put on note that in Fiji and across the Blue Pacific, marine turtles, commonly known as vonu, are not simply wildlife. They are ancestral symbols, clan totems, and part of our sacred stories. For many communities, the turtle is regarded as a relative and has the responsibility to protect it as a duty passed down from generations. When a turtle is taken illegally or traded, the harm is not only ecologically, it is cultural violation. It disrupts traditional stewardship systems, undermines community protocols, and weakens the spiritual connection between our people and our ocean. The amendments in this proposal strengthen enforcement, reduce bycatch, and support community awareness. These measures reinforce the same principles our customs uphold, which are respect, restraint, and protection of species that carry deep cultural meaning to us. For us, safeguarding turtles is an obligation to our identity, our culture, and to the generations to come. Fiji therefore supports this proposal, and we thank you, Chair.
I open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. SPREP, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The Pacific region is habitat to several sea turtle species: green turtle, hawksbill turtle, leatherback turtle, loggerhead turtle, and olive ridley turtle. SPREP has recently developed a regional extinction risk model for these 5 sea turtle species that takes into account natural variability, climate, and conditions of foraging grounds. The extinction risk analysis is based on take scenarios, given much of the region suffers from uncertain data on populations. The model simulates a number of take scenarios in both commercial bycatch and community-based fisheries across all 5 species in the SPREP region. The simulation suggests that in a business-as-usual scenario, where nothing else is done, several of these species are likely to become locally extinct. It also suggests that impactful additional management interventions made at scale can reverse the declining species trajectories. The analysis is available on our website or on request to SPREP. SPREP therefore urges parties to adopt the proposed revisions to the resolution on conservation and trade in marine turtles. SPREP also hopes to raise substantial funds to work on these species in collaboration with parties and organizations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So I see consensus in supporting the amendments to the to the resolution conference 19.5. So the committee agrees to the amendments to resolution conference 19.5 on conservation of and trade in marine turtles contained in the annex to the present document, and also taking the edits from the Secretariat, because it's just making sure all the international conventions is correct and the language is just editorial, and also delete decision 18.217 Ref COP 19. Thank you, and I close this agenda item. The next agenda item is item 47, tortoises and freshwater turtles. 47. So there are two documents under this agenda. 47.1 is submitted by the Standing Committee and the Secretariat, reporting on the progress and asking parties to adopt amendments to Resolution Conference 11.9 as well as new decisions. And 47.2 is submitted by the EU on behalf of its member states and in consultation in Madagascar. So my suggestion is we look at 47.1 first, 47.1, and look at the recommendations 26, little b, little c, and little d first. Document 47.1. Recommendations 26, little b, little c, little d. So we look at this three first. So I'm asking for interventions for these three recommendations. I open the floor to parties. Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. México apoya la adopción de las recomendaciones presentadas en los documentos COP20 DOC 46 y COP20 DOC 47.1 por considerar que fortalecen de manera integral la conservación de todas las especies de tortugas incluidas en los apéndices de CITES y combaten de forma más efectiva el comercio ilegal que las amenaza. Se considera que dichas recomendaciones refuerzan la cooperación internacional, la aplicación de la ley y el intercambio de información para desmantelar redes de tráfico, lo que lleva a mejorar la identificación, el control y el seguimiento de especímenes mediante guías técnicas y herramientas forenses. México ha participado en operaciones conjuntas, coadyuvando con Interpol y aduanas y otras autoridades, lo que al final se traduce en acciones coordinadas de colaboración en diversos países de tránsito, demanda y consumo de tortugas. México, como país con especies nativas de tortugas marinas y de agua dulce en riesgo y como participante activo de operaciones internacionales contra el tráfico de vida silvestre, reconoce que estas medidas contribuyen directamente a sus políticas nacionales de protección de la biodiversidad, fortalecen las capacidades de inspección y cumplimiento de la Profepa, la autoridad aduanera y fuerzas de seguridad y apoyan la protección de especies en todas sus áreas de distribución. Gracias, señora presidenta.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. India wishes to thank the Standing Committee for the document COP20, document 47.1. India is concerned with the scale of transnational illegal trade in freshwater tortoise and would urge the parties to consider adopting the measures to minimize such illegal trade through strengthened enforcement and awareness generation. India supports the adoption of the draft decision 20CC, 20DD on tortoise and freshwater turtles as contained in Annex 1, COP20, Doc 47.1. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. Okay, seeing no requests from the floor, the committee agrees to the amendments to Resolution Conference 11.9 as contained in Annex 2. Note the report from Madagascar as contained in Annex 3 and delete decisions 19.123 to 19.127. Now we will move to document 47.2, and I will turn to Madagascar, and I'll pass the floor to Madagascar for introduction. Madagascar, please.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs les délégués, comme c'est la première fois que je prends la parole au nom de la délégation de Madagascar, nous souhaitons exprimer notre gratitude au gouvernement et au peuple d'Ouzbékistan pour leur chaleureuse hospitalité et au secrétariat pour l'excellente organisation de cette COP20. Nous tenons à saluer le comité permanent et le secrétariat de la CITES pour la qualité du rapport présenté, ainsi que la Pologne au nom de l'Union européenne pour son leadership dans la soumission de ce document. Notre délégation confirme son soutien aux deux rapports 47.1 et 47.2 qui reflètent avec justesse la situation des tortues terrestres à Madagascar, ainsi que les efforts nationaux engagés pour leur protection. Ces espèces de tortues constituent un patrimoine que Madagascar s'est résolument engagé à défendre. Face aux pressions croissantes du commerce illicite, notre gouvernement applique la tolérance zéro face à la criminalité sur la faune sauvage. Cette volonté se traduit par le renforcement de la coopération interagences d'application de la loi et du système anticorruption et antifraude au niveau national et au niveau international. Nous tenons à remercier l'ensemble de nos partenaires internationaux ainsi que les pays de transit et de destination pour leur collaboration déterminante dans les saisies, les rapatriements et l'échange d'informations stratégiques. Ces résultats démontrent que la lutte contre le trafic ne peut réussir qu'à travers un effort collectif. Nous souhaitons ainsi la continuité et le renforcement du soutien technique et financier des parties et partenaires pour consolider la surveillance, améliorer les capacités nationales et garantir la protection durable de ces espèces emblématiques. En conséquence, Madagascar appelle les parties à adopter les projets de décision tels que présentés dans l'annexe du document afin de garantir une mise en œuvre efficace et coordonnée. Je vous remercie.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the EU and its member states. We appreciate the progress made by Madagascar to implement relevant decisions and strengthen its effort to combat the trafficking in these species, while we note the persisting challenges Madagascar faces and the need for support and technical assistance. In this context, we welcome and note the report from Madagascar in Annex 3 on seizures, arrests, and prosecutions, which reflects increased efforts to tackle the illegal trade. At Standing Committee 78, due to limited time, the EU was unable to present additional proposed decisions aiming to, inter alia, support Madagascar in combating the illegal trade in Testudinese species. Consequently, the EU has collaborated with Madagascar and submitted additional decisions for consideration by the COP as presented in Working Document 47.2. The Secretariat notes that the draft decisions in Working Document 47.1 and 47.2 partially overlap and therefore suggest revised and consolidated draft decisions from the two documents. We fully support the consolidated decisions as revised by the Secretariat, which fully incorporates the decisions proposed by the EU together with Madagascar. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, European Union. That's very helpful. Panama, I give you the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta, por darme la palabra. Panamá aprecia y agradece el trabajo realizado en la elaboración de este documento. Señora presidenta, Panamá reconoce que ha pasado una década desde el último estudio sobre el comercio ilegal de tortugas terrestres y de agua dulce presentado en la COP17. Sin embargo, el tráfico de estas especies sigue siendo rampante, incluso en el caso de las especies del apéndice 1. Y se han añadido más especies a los apéndices en las últimas COP. A Panamá le preocupa que nuestros esfuerzos colectivos para prevenir la caza furtiva, desarticular las redes de tráfico y reducir la demanda sigan siendo insuficientes y que sea necesario que tanto los estados del área de distribución como los estados consumidores redoblen sus esfuerzos. Por esta razón nos gustaría proponer un párrafo adicional en la decisión de este documento, en el cual se le solicita a la Secretaría que colabore con el ICCBC, el Grupo de Especialistas en Tortugas Terrestres y de Agua Dulce, IUCN, WCS y otros expertos para elaborar un informe para el Standing Committee 82 sobre el comercio ilegal de tortugas y galápagos. Este informe deberá identificar a las partes más afectadas y proponer recomendaciones específicas para cada país con el fin de hacer frente a este comercio en aumento. Gracias, señora presidenta.
Sorry, can I just confirm you want the insertion in which document, 47.2?
Sí.
And is the consolidated comments from the Secretariat the draft decision or the one in Annex 1?
El del anexo 1.
And Annex 1 is 20 CC. There's no 20 CC. Okay, Panama, I'll come back to you, but my suggestion is to look at the consolidated version. You know, since there is support to there's support in, because there's overlapping, and I think there's support to look at, in general, the consolidated version. In document 47.2, the comments from the Secretariat, there's a consolidated version. Yeah, United States of America, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I think we agree in general with what Panama was actually saying, and I think that that would fall under draft decision 20E in the consolidated draft decisions, adding a new subparagraph F. And in addition to that, while the United States generally supports the adoption of the draft decisions as amended by the Secretariat in this document, we have additional amendments to propose. So under draft decision 20AA, we have additional text for subparagraph C and would add a new subparagraph D. So for subparagraph C, after the phrase law enforcement operations, we would add the text in partnership with subnational law enforcement. And that would end with a semicolon and, where we would insert new paragraph D to encourage the establishment of national-level strategic partnerships that include subnational governments to collaborate across relevant sectors to combat illegal trade in tortoises and freshwater turtles. We also have a minor amendment for clarity in draft decision 20BB, subparagraph D, where we would strike the term agreeing on and insert making arrangements for repatriation procedures. And just in line with these edits that with these amendments that we propose, we just want to draw attention to information document CoP20 Imp 30, which was submitted by the United States and the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies in relation to both of these documents discussed, that contain two documents that together demonstrate a collaborative approach taken by the United States at both the state and national government levels to combat the illegal collection and trade of our native tortoises and freshwater turtles. We would encourage parties to consider the establishment of similar strategic partnerships built to confront the illegal trade of tortoises and freshwater turtles. Thank you.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We'll try to address some of the points that were made. So first of all, Canada recognizes that these decisions were agreed, and we in particular note the support from Madagascar for the adoption of the decisions, and I am specifically referring to the consolidated version as provided by the Secretariat in their comments. So in that regard, given that these decisions are primarily focused at Madagascar, Canada supports their adoption. However, we do want to note more broadly that Canada is reluctant to take decisions that are directed specifically to one country on matters associated with compliance. We think we have other tools, such as the Compliance Assistance Program, that can help address some of these activities and issues in a more holistic way. So our preference would have been to incorporate these actions under the Compliance Assistance Program. However, we do recognize that Madagascar has stated their support, and thus we will also support their preferred approach. Regarding the addition from Panama, we understood that addition to be broader, to reflect concerns with the overall illegal trade in all tortoises and freshwater turtles. We would appreciate if that is correct. If that is indeed correct, we don't see value in adding that into decisions that are right now focused on trade from Madagascar. Rather, if there is a will to initiate some discussions within the intersessional period on concerns in tortoise and freshwater turtle, illegal trade in tortoise and freshwater turtles, we would see that as a separate new standalone decision so that we are clear in the directions we are providing on the issues related to the challenges in Madagascar versus the overarching global challenges that we also recognize. And finally, we can agree with the amendments proposed by the United States to the decision AA, which is directed to all parties, and the clarifying amendment that they proposed in paragraph D of decision 20BB. Thank you, Chair.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Related to what Panama was saying earlier, I think what we would like to see is to add a new subparagraph, F, under draft decision 20EE, which is directed to the Secretariat. And this would read, issue a notification to the parties to collect information on implementation of Resolution Comp 11.9 Rev CoP18, and in collaboration with ICCWC members, the IUCN SSC Tortoise and Freshwater Turtle Specialist Group, and other relevant experts, prepare a report to the 82nd meeting of the Standing Committee on the illegal trade in tortoises and freshwater turtles and implementation of Resolution Comp 11.9 Rev CoP18 that identifies parties affected by the illegal trade in tortoises and freshwater turtles and proposes country-specific recommendations to address the illegal trade in these species. Thank you.
So, United States of America and Panama, if I look at the 47.2 document again, the title is saying Trade in Tortoises and Freshwater Turtles from Madagascar. So, by issuing a notification to collect information, I think from what the explanation earlier is, you're looking at the overall global illegal trade in tortoises and freshwater turtles and not specifically from Madagascar, am I right?
That is correct.
Yeah, so I think the suggestion is that can Panama and US prepare a COM doc and then we see where we can put it? Yeah, thank you. Panama, is it okay?
Panamá está de acuerdo.
Thank you very much. And then with the edits, I'm just going to get reflections from European Union and Madagascar so that we can move on. European Union, you have the floor. Okay, so then United States of America, can I just get you to repeat again on your edits in 20AA? I think you have a new para little d. I got the part where you have another one at 20BB, little d, changing agreeing on to making arrangements for. So I just need to repeat on 20AA, the new para little d. Thank you.
Thank you. That new subparagraph D would read, encourage the establishment of national-level strategic partnerships that include subnational governments to collaborate across relevant sectors to combat illegal trade in tortoises and freshwater turtles.
Sorry, can you repeat again?
Encourage the establishment of national-level strategic partnerships that include subnational governments to collaborate across relevant sectors to combat illegal trade in tortoises and freshwater turtles.
European Union and Madagascar, I'm looking for reflections on the edits. Madagascar, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous soutenons les décisions dans la version consolidée proposée par le secrétariat et nous n'avons pas d'objection par rapport aux propositions des autres parties concernant les dispositions au niveau global, c'est-à-dire au niveau mondial.
Panama, you wanted the floor?
Sí, solamente quería reiterar que las enmiendas que acaba de hacer Estados Unidos, estamos completamente de acuerdo con las enmiendas que ha hecho Estados Unidos al documento.
Thank you, everyone. So for agenda 47, I'm going back to 47.1, the recommendations 26. 47.1, recommendations 26. So we're going to look at 26A, right? So we have already discussed on the draft decision. So the committee agree on the draft decisions on tortoises and freshwater turtles as contained in 47.2 with comments from the floor. So I repeat again, the committee agree on the draft decisions on tortoises and freshwater turtles in 47.2 with comments from the floor. United States of America, have the floor.
Yeah, we just want to get clarification of whether our additional draft decision regarding the notification will be included in the comments, or are we still doing a drafting group with Panama?
I will give the floor to the So it will just be a com doc with Panama? Yeah, then we see where to fit it in. Thank you. Okay, so if seeing no more requests from the floor, I will close this agenda item. Thank you. The European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We have no objections to the additions. We just note that in 28A, small d, the language to encourage is repetitive, as it is also in the beginning of this paragraph. Thank you.
Yes, noted. We were aware of that. Thank you. So the next agenda item is 79, pangolins. So the first document is document 79.1 and is prepared by the Secretariat. So we'll look at 79.1 first. So we're looking at the proposed amendments to Resolution Conference 17.10 and also adopting the proposed decisions in Annex 2 and delete decisions 19.201 and 202. So we are looking at document 79.1 first. So I open the floor for parties. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Malaysia supports the deletions of Decision 19.201 and 19.202 and the incorporations of the Decision 19.201 into the new draft in paragraph 4B of the Resolution Conf 17.10, Rev. CoP19. Malaysia also supports the adoptions of new draft decision laid out in Annex 2. Thank you, Chair.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. India thanks Secretariat for the CoP20 Doc 79.1. India provides highest protection to all species of pangolin by keeping them in Schedule 1 of our Internal Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Recent surveys in areas by government agencies and NGOs have found new distribution ranges beyond the protected area, which is a good sign for the species. Keeping in view the illegal trade in the species inside India and illegal exports, the government is taking appropriate steps to reduce their trade through legal strong actions and awareness. India wishes to suggest that the time for reporting to the Secretariat as per draft amendment resolution contained in CoP20 Doc 79.1 Action 1 be made as 31st October every year to maintain uniformity in reporting annual trade data, illegal trade data to Secretariat. By bringing this parity, the reporting can be done effectively and efficiently on time. Thank you, Chair.
Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. With respect to agenda item 79.1 on pangolins, managed species, the Philippines reaffirms its strong commitment to the effective implementation of Resolution Conference 17.10, Rev. CoP19, on the conservation and trade in pangolins. As a range state of the Philippine pangolins, Manis culiensis, an Appendix 1 species endemic to Palawan, Philippines. Our country has undertaken robust measures aligned with these resolutions and decisions. This includes strict national protection, strengthened interagency enforcement efforts, and continued implementation of the Philippine Pangolin Conservation and Management Plan. We also emphasize ongoing public awareness initiatives aimed at reducing demand and fostering greater community participation in pangolin conservation. The Philippines stands ready to continue cooperating with parties, experts from IUCN, and conservation organizations to advance meaningful and science-based conservation actions for the pangolins, especially the endemic pangolin, Palawan pangolin. With that said, the Philippines supports the adoption of the draft decision annexed to document 79.1. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Considering that the report, this current report that we are looking at, indicates a draft decline in pangolin legal activities, we are in agreement with the proposed amendments in Annex Number 1 and also in agreement with the draft decision in Annex Number 2. But at this moment in time, Chair, if the conference decides that specific instructions be issued out to parties to comply with the provisions of the convention, we will not oppose that. Thank you, Chair.
Zambia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Zambia supports the amendments as presented by China.
Zambia, which document are you looking at? We are not discussing any document by China.
Oh, sorry, Chair, I must have missed it. I thought that was on pangolin. Sorry, Chair.
No, we are on pangolin, but there's nothing from China. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States is taking steps for the conservation of pangolins, eminently in danger due to overharvesting and wildlife crime. We appreciate parties' efforts, and we continue to urge parties to fully implement all aspects of Resolution COP 17.10, Rev COP 19, to stop pangolin declines. Through these efforts, it remains possible for pangolins to rebound because of CITES in the global community. Reversing pangolin declines is within CITES' power because the top threat to most pangolin populations is exactly within our scope, related to overexploitation and international trade, and CITES parties are increasingly committed to these species. And in document 79.1, we support the resolution edits, and we have a small change in the resolution paragraph 4 to align the reporting dates in paragraph 3 with those in paragraph 4 so that they both occur before February 28th each year. So it would say in paragraph 4, urge parties to submit reports annually to the Secretariat, and we would add before February 28th. For the draft decisions, we support those as well and strongly recommend their adoption, and we suggest critical legal edits and a few recommended actions. First, we propose an edit from in accordance with to in line with, and that occurs in the draft decisions in 20 EE and 20 FF. Second, we also propose an edit to increase the response rates for notifications to the parties regarding pangolins. And we request reporting from parties that are identified as major source and major destination countries for pangolin trade and illegal pangolin trade, and those appear in Table 13 of this Annex 3 in this document, the report, and in Table 14. And those include the top countries for alleged origin and alleged destination. So the edit that we are suggesting occurs in 20 BB. It would say parties affected by illegal trade in pangolin specimens, as is written, and we would include including parties listed in Tables 13 and 14 of Annex 3 to document 79.1. It would continue, are encouraged to and it would go A and B, and we would add a C. And the language for a C that we're adding to 20BB would say, annually report to the Secretariat on any markets, seizures, legal and illegal trade, and breeding operations per paragraph 4 of the resolution, Comp 17.10, Rev Cop 19, and on any additional questions related to pangolins via notifications to the parties. Lastly, we have one additional set of edits, and this relates to the idea of developing time-bound and measurable recommendations regarding pangolins. And we can suggest those edits when you are ready, or we can return to this regarding time-bound and measurable recommendations.
Sudan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Sudan is in the range state of African pangolin, Sudan is believed to be in line with the view of Zimbabwe. Thank you.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China has been paying great attention and real values the conservation of pangolin, and a set of conservation measures has been already elaborated in Doc SC78 Info 2, Pangolin Conservation in China. To make the resolution more practical, as for Annex 1, China suggests the following 4 amendments. In paragraph 3, we suggest change the phrase in a format to be defined by the Secretariat to with a reference to a format prepared by the Secretariat. And second, in paragraph 4, letter B, add as appropriate to the end of this paragraph. And in paragraph 13, letter A, after use an aggregated summary of the pangolin stock declarations of parties, add contingent upon the permission of the data submitting parties, and overall change all stocks into stockpiles. China believes that the key points of pangolin conservation have already been listed in the Res Conf 1710 and should continue to be implemented in an effective and holistic way. The draft decision in Annex 2 single out several paragraphs out of it and are inadequate. And much important information contained in Res Conf 1710 has been overlooked. Therefore, China would like to propose a set of new draft decisions to replace the ones presented in this document. Decision 20AA, directed to the Secretariat should issue a notification to the parties within 90 days after CoP20 to gather new information on pangolin conservation and management to implement Res Conf 1710 and compile a document to be reviewed by AC 34 and SC 81. Decision 20BB, directed to the parties. Parties are encouraged to reply the notification to the parties in a timely and active manner, offering new information on pangolin conservation and management. Decision 20CC, directed to the Animals Committee. Animals Committee should analyze the document compiled by the Secretariat and set out priorities for pangolin conservation and management at AC 34 for further report to the Standing Committee. Decision 20DD, directed to the Standing Committee. Standing Committee should analyze the document compiled by the Secretariat and the report made by AC 34 at SC 81. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Nepal, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Nepal concomitantly reaffirms the effective management and strict conservation of pangolin and its habitats based on the National Policy and Species Action Plan. Considering the various conservation challenges, Nepal reiterates its collaborated management and protection of the species and supports the amendment to the resolution and new draft decision contained in the annex, considering the need of conservation actions to the targeted species. Thank you.
South Africa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. South Africa would like to support the adoption as proposed by China in the amendments made. Thank you.
Okay, I'm closing the speaker list. I still have European Union, Tanzania, United States of America. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the EU and its member states. We acknowledge the important progress made on tackling illegal trade with pangolin specimens, especially increased enforcement efforts and regulation of domestic markets. However, we remain concerned over continued extinction threat for all pangolin species and continued high levels of illegal trade. While there are some indications that illegal trade decreased around 2019, we are not convinced this is a long-term trend, but likely due to other factors, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, noting that seizures appear to be increasing again in the last few years. We urge parties affected by illegal trade in pangolin species to enhance enforcement efforts. We would prefer to keep the decisions as presented in the original document 79.1, and we support the changes proposed by the United States in draft decision 20BB. We further stress the need for strict control measures to secure that pangolin stockpiles are managed as required by paragraph 3 of Res Conf 1710 and report to the Secretariat accordingly. And we urge range states to conduct robust population assessments for all pangolin species and implement population management plans. The EU supports recommendation A and C of the document, but propose stronger language in some of the draft decisions under recommendation B to further enhance this work. In Annex 2, draft decisions 20AA, we suggest changing that pangolin range states are encouraged to instead read pangolin range states should. In decision 20BB, we suggest changing parties affected by illegal trade in pangolin species are encouraged to be requested to, and we support the additional changes made by the US. In 20DD, we suggest to add a clarification at the very end of the sentence. So after maintain to secure these stockpiles, the new text would read, and duly report to the Secretariat each year by the 28th of February to align it with the reporting deadlines in the resolution. Lastly, considering the voiced concerns, the EU does not agree with the conclusions made by the Secretariat in paragraph 34 of the document that it is not necessary to develop time-bound and measurable recommendations directed to specific parties as agreed by Standing Committee 78, but rather we consider such recommendations necessary, and therefore we fully support the US amendments to Decision 20EE and 20AFF. Sorry. Thank you, Chair. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We support the amendments just suggested by the EU, and we also are prepared to provide our amendments for 20EE and 20FF regarding time-bound and measurable recommendations, which we would direct now to the Standing Committee. So when you're ready, we'll make those changes or suggest those changes.
Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair.
United Republic of Tanzania support the proposed draft decision presented by China. Thank you.
Okay, so my suggestion is we'll do Annex 1 first. The draft amendments to the Resolution Conference 17.10, Document 79.1, Annex 1. So I did not hear any support for the change in the timeline. There was a suggestion on the part where strict control measures to secure and monitor these stocks and inform the Secretary of the level of stocks each year before 28 February with a reference to a format to be defined by the Secretariat. So there was an amendment there, before 28 February with a reference to a format to be defined by the Secretariat. And then in 4a, there was an amendment as well, submit reports annually to the Secretariat before 28 February. Paragraph 4a, submit reports annually to the Secretariat before 28 February. And then 4b, at the end of the sentence, to add as appropriate. And then in 13a, in the last third sentence, to use the last second sentence, to use an aggregated summary of the pangolin stockpile declarations of parties and contingent upon the permission of the parties, and then the remaining sentence follow. I repeat again. So for 13a is the last second sentence. To use an aggregated summary of the pangolin stockpile, so changing stock to stockpile, declarations of parties, and contingent upon the permission of the parties, and other relevant information, then the rest follow. So I just want to get some reflection on the edits. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We support the edit to paragraph 4a to include before 28th February. We don't support the addition of as appropriate to paragraph 4b, and we also don't support the addition of the additional text to 13a. Yeah, thank you.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We would align ourselves with the remarks of the UK just now. Thank you.
Kenya, you have the floor. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Kenya supports the recommendations and the draft decisions as contained in the present document, and including some of the amendments that have been suggested, especially by the US, in draft decision DDEE, and the decision directed to the parties under paragraph
Kenya, I'm
4.
not at the decisions. I'm at Annex 1, the draft amendments to Resolution Conference 17.10. I'm not at the draft decisions now.
Thank you, Chair. We are on the suggestions. The amendment suggested by US, and we would not agree with the suggestion made by China, because the requirement here would be for those parties, parties are encouraged to make every effort to identify, and so it should apply to all parties. So I think that the instructions is clear. Madam Chair, Kenya is a range state for 3 of the pangolin species in Africa, and these 3 species continue to face threats from poaching and habitat loss. But Chair, we are calling on all parties to make every effort so that we can secure and restore the populations of these species. And so the draft decisions as recommended with a few amendments that are being proposed, and I think we can, when we get to the draft decisions, we will speak specifically to those areas that we consider we need to enhance with the amendments. Madam Chair, we recognize that at this point, we need to make all possible efforts as parties and more so as the range states for the pangolin species and the destination countries for the destination countries for the trade in the pangolin species, so that we can all cooperate and ensure that we have populations of all the species, both in Africa and China, and Africa and Asia, and we believe that is the essence for which the previous COP agreed to have all the 8 species of pangolins placed in Appendix 1. Thank you, Madam Chair.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We would align ourselves with the UK and the US in Annex 1, and we do not support the proposed changes to point 4, little b, and we do not support the changes to point 13, little a. Thank you.
Okay, so I've heard from the floor, so the only edit that we will have for document 79.1 Annex 1 is paragraph 4 little a, urges parties to submit reports annually to the Secretariat before 28 February. Okay, so paragraph 4 little a, submit reports annually to the Secretariat before 28 February. And for paragraph 13A on pangolin stock declarations, I would just like to see, I just want to change it to stockpile so that it is more accurate, like the term. It's just editorial, so okay, thank you very much. Okay, so for document 79.1 Annex 1, I will close this, the edits. For the draft decisions in Annex 2, there's quite extensive discussion and also edits, and I really don't take the discussion here. We don't have time, so I am proposing to strike a working group. So parties, so the mandate of the working group will be to look at the draft decisions in document 79.1 Annex 2. And now parties who are interested to be in the working group, please press your buttons now. Thank you. Okay, I have European Union, China, United States of America, Denmark, Zimbabwe, Benin, Kenya, United Kingdom, Thailand, Botswana, Bangladesh, DRC, South Africa, Liberia, Nepal. And now non-parties observer organizations. WWF, EIA UK, WCS, IUCN, Conservation Alliance Kenya, Wildlife Justice Commission, India. Oh no, sorry, I've already closed for parties. So India, do you want to be in the working group?
Thank you, Chair. We'd like to be in the part of working group.
Born Free Foundation, Fauna and Flora International. And now I'm looking for a chair. Can I get a volunteer, please, to chair this working group? South Africa, could I get you to chair this working group? South Africa.
No, we're not in the position to chair.
India, can you chair this working group?
Yeah, we can chair.
Thank you, India. Okay, I forgot to open the floor for non-parties and observer organizations. I now open the floor. Wildlife Justice Commission.
Thank you, Chair. The Wildlife Justice Commission commends the Secretariat and IUCN for their report on pangolins. The WJC has observed two significant recent trends in pangolin scale trafficking. Firstly, an apparent decline in trafficking of African pangolin scales, which intelligence suggests may reflect strengthened law enforcement efforts and disruption of criminal networks. At the same time, there has been an increase in reported seizures of Asian pangolin scales. In this context, DNA testing becomes critical for seizures made in Asia where the points of origin, whether African or Asian, is not clear from the trafficking route. Determining provenance could give law enforcement a clearer picture of how trafficking patterns are shifting and whether these two trends are connected. This clarity is vital to ensure that limited resources are deployed strategically and that enforcement interventions target the points in the supply chain where they will have the greatest impact. Moreover, where organized crime is involved, a robust law enforcement response is crucial. Our 2025 report, Disruption and Disarray, referenced in Information Document 5 submitted by Nigeria, analyzes a decade of pangolin scale trafficking and highlights best practices that have delivered real results, including targeting high-level criminal networks through intelligence-led investigations and enhancing international cooperation and partnerships with civil society. We urge parties to instruct the Secretariat to develop time-bound, measurable recommendations to ensure that the findings of the Secretariat's report and the trends we have outlined are acted upon, including clear provisions to strengthen the routine use of DNA testing for pangolin scale seizures where origin is uncertain. Thank you.
IUCN, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We're making this intervention on behalf of IUCN and Traffic. IUCN and Traffic welcome the continued attention of parties to pangolin conservation and support the recommendations in Doc 79.1, including the proposed amendments to Resolution Conference 1710 and the draft decisions to strengthen its implementation. Though the findings from the report in Annex 3 to Doc 79.1 suggest a possible decline in illegal trade, we note that this assessment is based on very limited and imperfect data as reported by very few range states and should therefore be interpreted with caution, including identifying only the origin and destination countries as reported in Annex 3. Insights from IUCN SSC pangolin specialist group members and their partners in range countries indicate that pangolins continue to be harvested, consumed and trafficked at high volumes both domestically and internationally. We therefore support the recommendation made by the Standing Committee at SC 78 to develop time-bound and measurable recommendations directed to the parties for improved implementation of ResConf 1710. We underscore the urgent need to strengthen measures to address harvest and illegal trade, secure and manage stockpiles, improve species-level identification of pangolins in illegal trade, and enhance monitoring of wild pangolin populations. We encourage all parties to fully implement ResConf 1710, including rigorous enforcement, robust data collection, and evidence-based demand reduction efforts. And we welcome continued reporting by all parties on their efforts in accordance with the resolution. To facilitate their efforts, we draw the parties' attention to the resources referenced in Doc 79.1 and to CoP20 Inf Doc 68, the new West Africa Regional Action Plan for Pangolin Conservation, which was developed jointly with range states to guide their pangolin conservation efforts. A comparable plan for Southern Africa is forthcoming. IUCN, including the SSC Pangolin Specialist Group and Traffic, stands ready to support parties with scientific
IUCN, please wrap up.
and technical guidance to advance effective implementation and the conservation of pangolins. Thank you, Chair.
I now open agenda item 79.2. 79.2, which is prepared by the Standing Committee in consultation with the Chair of the Animals Committee and the Secretariat. The Conference of Parties is invited to adopt the draft decisions on pangolins found in the annex of the document and delete decisions 18.238, 239, 19.200, 203, and 204. I also draw your attention to the Secretariat's comments. The Secretariat proposed an additional decision and also make consequential amendment to the other draft decisions proposed by the Standing Committee. The proposed addition involves inviting IUCN to engage other relevant experts and collaborate with the pangolin range states to develop additional parameters for all pangolin species. I will now turn to IUCN to see if they would like to give and have any reactions to this. I give the floor to IUCN.
The second.
Please keep your intervention short. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. IUCN welcomes document 79.2 and supports the proposed decisions, including those directed to the IUCN SSC Pangolin Specialist Group. The development of robust conversion parameters is essential for effective judicial proceedings, improving our ability to monitor the impact of pangolin trafficking on wild populations and strengthening the scientific foundation of the collective response to pangolin trafficking. The Pangolin Specialist Group has made significant progress developing conversion parameters, achieving a robust data set for 5 of the 8 recognized pangolin species. However, additional data are still required for Temminck's ground pangolin, Philippine pangolin, and Indian pangolin. Additional data on the other 5 species will further improve the precision of all developed parameters. And assessment of scaled seizures will help us better understand how species composition of seized scales impacts the estimated number of whole pangolin equivalents using the conversion parameters. We welcome the decisions recommending continued collaboration between IUCN relevant experts and pangolin range states to complete this work. We kindly request that parties continue facilitating the efforts by providing the Pangolin Specialist Group with access to the needed specimens, seizures, and funding. Finally, we applaud the ongoing emphasis on capacity building, particularly through improved identification tools, forensic methodologies, and technical support, which responds to the needs consistently raised by pangolin range states. Thank you, Chair.
I open the floor for parties. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. India thanks the Secretariat for the CoP20 Doc 79.2. India believes a precautionary measure to be taken in the conversion parameters for pangolin species developed in accordance with the provisions. India supports the suggestion of Secretariat in draft decision 20AA for developing conversion parameters for all pangolin species through the Special Survival Commission's Pangolin Specialist Group, considering the document AC 33, Doc 35. Thank you, Madam Chair.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States supports the draft decisions in document 79.2, including the Secretariat changes, and we do have one request to replace in accordance with to in line with in draft decision 20CC. Thank you, Chair.
Singapore, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, Singapore, as a range state of the Sunda pangolin, was involved in the data collection of conversion parameters for the Sunda pangolin species. As such, Singapore supports the recommendations as amended by the Secretariat in the document. Thank you.
Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We appreciate the inclusion under Agenda Item 79.2, the intention to advance work to refine conversion parameters for all pangolins, with a special mention or concern on the endemic Palawan pangolin. Indeed, we find this relevant in strengthening law enforcement in the Philippines, and we welcome opportunities to work with other parties, especially experts and other conservation organizations, to advance this specific work on conversion parameters. As such, we support the adoption of the draft decision Annex to Document 79.2. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'm hearing consensus on supporting the draft decisions with a slight edit by the US to change in accordance to in line. I will just take one last intervention. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. United Republic of Tanzania support the proposed draft decision. We understand that the present document is intended to improve the identification of pangolin species for management and the judicial purposes. United Republic of Tanzania support recommendation in paragraph 27 of this document, and we believe that the adoption of this recommendation will ensure the development of conversion parameters for all pangolin species, strengthen law enforcement, and encourage financial and technical support from parties and organizations for in-situ conservation for pangolin and the related management program at range state level. Thank you, Chair.
I open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. Okay, seeing no requests from the floor, the committee is invited to agree on the draft decisions as amended by the Secretariat, and also taking into account the amendment made on the floor by United States of America contained in the annex. Delete decisions 18.238, 239, 19.200, 19.203, and 19.204. So I close this agenda item. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to do the summary records. Translator, can I have extra 10 minutes, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we are looking at summary record 1. I will turn to the Secretariat first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding summary record 1, I received comments from Singapore about agenda item 15.1 and 15.2. So if you turn in the English versions to page 6 of summary record, in little b, instead of CITES-WOHA Joint Working Program, it should be CITES-WOHA Joint Program of Work. So it's really changing working program to program of work. And the second edit mentioned by Singapore was, if you go down on the same page, there was a hyphen missing between high and level, about the high-level expert panel, so insert a hyphen. And on paragraph C, so that was actually missed. Should be an update of the subparagraphs because we deleted paragraph B of 20BB. So the last paragraph should say report to the Standing Committee on the implementation of Decision 20BB, subparagraphs A and B, because we deleted one paragraph. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And now open the floor to parties if there's any corrections that they would like to make. Okay, seeing no request from the floor, summary record 1 is adopted by the committee. Now we move to summary record 2. I give the floor to Secretariat. Okay, nothing from the Secretariat. I give the floor to parties for any corrections. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the agenda item, CITES Strategic Vision, in the paragraph that speaks to the United States, we like to add that to remove all mentions to Sustainable Development Goals and the one mention to the Kunming-Montreal Biodiversity Framework from the text. So there was multiple mentions to the SDGs. In addition, in agenda item 16.4 under IQUIC, it says that India expressed support for the draft decision 20AA in the annex to the document. The United States of America proposed a minor edit, and then we suggest comma, which was not supported. And that's all we have for the summary record. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We also have an edit regarding to document 13, strategic vision. So the EU and its member states would like to add to the 6th paragraph, which starts regarding recommendation 23A, the following text after the renewal of decision 19.14. Now it comes. To allow further work on an additional indicator for objective 1.4, as they cautioned about the meaningfulness of indicator 1.4.1 alone. So this is how the whole para would read now. Regarding recommendation 23a, the European Union and its member states supported adoption of indicator 1.4.1, and the renewal of decision 19.14 to allow further work on an additional indicator for objective 1.4, as they cautioned about the meaningfulness of indicator 1.4.1 alone. Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United States of America opposed renewal of decision 19.14. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, seeing no more requests from the floor, the committee adopts summary record 2 with the edits from US and EU. Thank you. Now we go to summary record 3. Okay, so I open the floor for parties if there's any corrections. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding this summary item for item 27, we understood that based on our proposal, the CITES would use the current terminology in the interim. It's important to make it clear that we do not support the current terminology, but noting the diversion of view, we agree to use it in the interim as it's explained in the summary record. However, we would like to add to the paragraph where it starts with, it was agreed to continue using the existing terminology, So at the end of rural communities, we would like to add in the interim, as this was the intent of the proposal. Thank you.
I see no more requests from the floor. The committee adopts summary record 3 with the edit from Canada. Thank you. Now we move to summary record 4. I give the floor to parties for any corrections. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the item on livelihood, we just want to clarify that we supported the United States recommendation regarding paragraph 20AA, paragraph A, and the paragraph B of decision 20BB. However, the latter was not our proposal. We simply supported it. And also, we did not support the recommendation to delete 20BB paragraph C. Just to clarify this. Thank you.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is in regards to document 29.2, the document by Zambia. On the second page where it starts with Conf 16.6, Rev Comp 18, the summary record says, arguing that CITES should not provide guidance to parties to enhance trade in wild species. That was one of the aspects that was brought up on the floor. In addition, it was that the aspects go beyond the mandate and scope of CITES. So we'd like that also inserted in there, that the aspects go beyond the mandate and scope of CITES. And I think that's it for the summary doc. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more requests from the floor, the committee adopts the summary record 4 with the edits from Canada and the United States of America. Thank you. That's it. So we have ended the morning session. Thank you very much, and I see you at 2 o'clock. Thank you. Portugal, you had an intervention? Portugal?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. With your indulgence, I want to make an announcement. It's okay? Thanks, Chair. So it's an announcement for participants, students and lecturers in the nearby as a master course on CITES. Group photo today at 1:45 p.m. on the stage near the European Union room, which is near the entrance of Committee 1. Thanks a lot.